All right, good morning, everyone. We're live. It's Friday, heading into the weekend. So I got Chris, Invest LYH back, and I got Zach here. So morning, fellas.
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah. So quickly, if everyone doesn't know, I interviewed Zach recently for my channel. So his long form is out there on my channel if you want to know more about him. But maybe quickly, Zach, you can give like a 60-second spiel on who you are, where do you invest, and like I guess how do you know Chris? Maybe.
Yeah, that's cool. So my name is Zach, of course. I invest in Central Virginia. Chris and I invest in the same market. We met at an investor meetup, have become friends. At least I think we're friends. I'm just kidding. Um,
We are.
we are. I know we are. We met a while ago. We've become good friends, and we enjoy talking about real estate, economics, business, all those sorts of things, and have done some different things. So yeah, I invest here in Central Virginia. I have a real estate investment company where we do mostly long-term rentals, and that's what I do.
And Mark, let me just add to that. Zach's like, I think we're friends. Zach had a key to my house probably for about a year and a half, and then one day he's like, "Chris, I think this is your key," and he gave it to
Yeah,
me, and I go home, and sure enough, it was a key to my house. So,
yeah, it's
Well,
true. I did have his house key for about a year and a half too long by accident.
Well,
Zach is
I would
so
never put it out there live that Chris is my friend. So Zach, you're a brave individual.
That's the
But
difference between you and me. I will stand behind Chris till the day I die.
well,
oh
it's
man.
easy to stand behind him. I mean, we was already joking about that before we went live. But Chris, also
Oh.
quickly, then why don't you let everyone know why did you recommend me to interview Zach, or why did you feel that he would have been a good story to put on my channel?
Well, one, Zach he's excellent at taking ideas and methods that somebody else has used, finding a way to apply that, and then he acts on it. And what do we always hear whenever we talk about real estate or we hear people talk about real estate? It's not just all the education that you're getting, but it's taking that initial step. And ever since I've known Zach, not only has he been taking steps, I mean, he has lapped most people that I know in our local area. And as you saw on your recent interview with him, he's lapped a lot of people in general. And I think that that's something that people can learn from, just kind of finding out how he does things and just overcoming that fear factor of, you know what, other people have done this. I just need to apply it in my life and I can take these steps as well.
Very cool. I think, yeah, like I said, go check out the long form content. Quick recap is that Zach purchased roughly 50 homes this year or 50 units, goal of getting to 100. And Chris kind of wanted to bring up a topic of finding deals in this market. So I don't know if Zach is using your strategy or you're learning from Zach's strategy, but Chris, you said you're kind of doing something different right now, right?
I am. I'm taking more of the Dion approach, where I'm looking for. I think Zach knows this from our conversations. Eventually, I will be leaving Lynchburg, and one of the things that I think I'm going to be doing is looking for kind of a higher rent area and trying to get that small multifamily to try to increase that cash flow with the least amount of units. And so that's kind of what we've been looking at, right? My wife and I looking at over the past, I'd probably say 3 or 4 months, just kind of finding those areas. And then we're going to coordinate eventually in terms of finding the people like Zach in those areas. Because one thing that I have learned moving here to Lynchburg is getting in touch with the local community in terms of investing and finding those people that are on similar paths as you so that you can bounce ideas off of them, but then also find out there's a theory in marketing called trust transference. I trust C because I trust B, and B trusts C, and I'm A, right? But by finding those people in your local market who they trust so that you can start using them. I know Zach could talk about this a lot, where I always ask him, hey, who do you know who does this? Who do you know who does this? Because I know Zach, he works with virtually everybody in town. And eventually what we're going to do is we're going to start finding those areas that we're looking at. Some may be out west, some may be down south. and find those people.
I just want to give a quick shout out to some people tuning in. We got All Nighter Hider as usual, so thanks for
Oh yeah.
stopping by. We got Frank, Old Guy REI, Flavio from Grandview, Washington. So thanks for tuning in. And like I said, if everyone can go to X, Chris's, I guess X, I don't know. He has like another page he started, but go to his X page, go follow him there. And there's Zach's Instagram page if you want to go connect with him also. But yeah, so I know like so maybe the quick thing too, Zach, what Chris touched on is that kind of what you're doing for finding deals, or how did you get to 50 units, I guess, this year? And then I think the biggest question after your video came out was a lot of people were wondering, I guess, how much money do you have in the deals, and do they all cash flow?
Yeah, those are great questions because I think it's easy to buy 50 units, or I mean, it's probably not easy to buy 50 units, but I think it's easy to buy a bunch of units that don't cash flow. Everything I buy cash flows. Everything I bought this year cash flows, and cash flows well after your property management, maintenance, your taxes, insurance, mortgage, every single capex, every single expense, vacancy. It all has to be underwritten and accounted for, and then beyond that, are you cash flowing? That's where real cash flow is. So everything I've purchased cash flows, and that's super important to me. I won't even buy a deal if it breaks even. I won't buy a deal if it doesn't make money, because what I've learned, I bought a couple break even deals early on when I started. And what I learned was that if a deal breaks even, it loses money, and if it makes money, then it'll probably make money, and every now and then it'll break even. Or sometimes you buy a deal that's supposed to make money and it just breaks even. So I try to underwrite more conservatively than I used to do. In terms of how much money I have in the deals, I've raised private capital to buy some of them. And then some of them I put my own cash into, and then some of them have been really creatively structured deals where I don't have to put money in. So it really just depends. Some of it's private capital, some of it's my own capital, some of it's a mix of owner financing or other creative strategies to get into a deal where you don't have to put cash into it yourself.
So, like I said, another big question that kind of came up was all nighter hiders asking 50 units on how many properties?
That's a great question. Probably, I don't know exactly, probably a dozen or so, 12 to 15 maybe.
All right. Chris, I mean, so like Zach's killing it, sounds like in your market. I mean, what are you doing just sitting on your ass if he's found 12, deals, I guess, this year? So is he doing something different, or is it the type of properties he's buying?
I think it's a mixture of both. And Mark and Zach, but the audience might not know. But I'm also in school, and I do teach at two other schools. So my time is really the component that does not allow me to do this, which is kind of why we shifted strategies and said, okay, well, if I understand that this time is being allotted over here, I'm going to have to make it up somewhere else. And that's where we kind of shifted to that. We're looking for those higher rental areas, because if we can get 1 4 unit, it should help with that increasing cash flow for that one building, as opposed to, like, say, the buildings that we have that I worked on in the past. So I would say that I do know that Zach he's much more mechanically inclined than I am. I remember one time he was helping me with a light, and we were just kind of talking, and I'm like, I don't even know how to do this. And he kind of walked me through how to do it, and I'm like, I wouldn't even have thought of that. But so that kind of does help. But get again, in my experience, having those resources so I can reach out to the people that have done these kind of things in the past, that does help. But my time component is just a lot. It's You guys don't even know how much research goes into just writing a 4 paragraph essay when you're in grad school. It is a lot. I mean, every sentence, essentially, I have to cite a paper that I've read. It's crazy. So that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I think it's important to add too, like one of the things I love about real estate is that everyone comes at it from a different perspective and a different angle, and everyone has different goals and things that they're shooting for. So Chris's passion is obviously economics and education. And so for him, real estate is a way to have a business that funds that passion. My passion really is business. I just love business, and so what I'm trying to do is build a big business. Not not a crazy huge business, but build a sizable business. And so for me, like I'm in line with my goals because my goal is to buy a certain number of units, 100 units this year. That's going to get me to where I want my business to be. I've bought so far 51, closing another one yesterday, under contract on another 20. So we'll kind of see as the business continues to grow. That's kind of where I'm headed. But everyone's different. If
Mhm.
you're investing for retirement or investing for different goals, or you're kind of taking that small and mighty approach, no one is better than the other. I think cash flow sometimes is a better metric than doors. And I think if you took somebody who had 10 properties that were paid off, or maybe not paid off, but 10 properties that were, some of them were paid off, some of them were cash flowing well, and compared it to my portfolio after all my expenses and the employees and the people I pay and all those sorts of things, I wouldn't be surprised if we were both making the same amount, because my goal is to build a business that employs people and provides housing for a bunch of people. Now, of course, at the end, after debt pay down and
Mhm.
appreciation, there's going to be more on one side than the other, but that's okay if somebody isn't trying to build something that's a management headache, because when you get into dozens and dozens of units, it's a management headache. And so I think that just goes to for people watching, stuff like that, like everyone just has different goals, and it's totally, it's just find what works for you, what you need, what helps your lifestyle, and how, and the type of work that you want to do, and chase that is kind of my thought.
And one thing, Mark, I'll add to that is Zach hit on something perfect there, the business aspect. I am not looking for another business. I am looking for, I wouldn't say passive, but I'm looking for supplemental income that in 10, 15 years, if I need to, I can either sell one and then pay off some of the others so that I can have that step up increase. Whereas I know Zach and I have talked in the past where he has some strategies and he looks at his plan and he says, I need to hire somebody. I've already run a business in the past. Those kind of things for me are just not in my view anymore. They're not for me. I am, if we were to go to the Kiyosaki method, I am an investor. Is that right? EI, right? I am not an E.
Um, I want to say what's up to Joe Farrell stopping by. Go check out his YouTube channel, Lending for Entrepreneurs. I'll be on live with him next week, Wednesday. See Joe V tuning in. Hey, Dylan's here. Another guy like you on the younger side, Zach. What is he? Gen Z, maybe millennial, but killing it out there. The one thing I'll also say, I think, and Zach, you or Chris, both of you touched on. I think the biggest thing is that you have this construction background, and hopefully Brandon Potts will be able to try and tune in. He did have some questions on this because he's in Texas doing kind of ground up builds, build to rent, and he definitely has all his costs dialed in, because he has that construction kind of background. And like Chris, you were saying, that's like Zach's able to find these deals, but it's also because he's more mechanically inclined in a sense where he's able to make some of these things pencil out a lot more. And Zach also wanted to touch on that, where like sometimes on initially it may not look like a deal, but how can you make it into a deal? But one other thing too I want to touch on was Hyder kind of brings it up about, you know, don't scale too quickly. And Zach, I had Cody Davis on my channel a couple days ago, and
Mm.
he reminds me definitely kind of what you're doing, very similar. He got a lot of seller finance properties, early in his career, no bank lending, whatnot. But actually, he's kind of restructuring his portfolio right now, kind of cleaning things up, getting out of a lot of the partnerships that he had initially. And is that kind of something for you that you think? Do you have a lot of partnership stuff that you're working on, or most of this is just on your own?
I have one partner. I think we are 50-50 on, I think, 9 doors of mine, and then 75-25 on 3. But everything else is not. So at some point, we'll dissolve our partnership. But for now, what him and I are doing together is running like clockwork, and we're enjoying it. So we're gonna sell, I think, one of our houses here soon. So yeah, I don't do a ton of partnerships. I'm very, very slow to get into those sorts of things. Um, but at some point, obviously phase that into that'll phase out because everything like that sort of ends at some point.
Yeah, so as I mentioned him, Brandon Build to Rent Texas has tuned in. So yeah, if you, I don't know if I have his channel, but if you can go check out his YouTube channel, it's growing quickly, but he definitely he has his numbers dialed in. I just spoke with him the other day, and so is that kind of like for you, Zach, that you have everything kind of down to like $1,000 possibly as far as what your cost is going to be and what?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I'm pretty at this point pretty accurate in when I underwrite rehab budgets. Obviously, I try to be conservative in the underwriting, but at this point, you do enough of them, and you get to the point where you can kind of know what things are going to cost you, and that really helps in underwriting deals, making sure deals work. That
Mhm.
those sorts of things definitely.
And I can give an example of that as well. I know Zach and I have talked about one of the rehab projects that he was doing, and it could have been, if I remember correctly, Zach, it could have been like a 10 grand deal, but you were able to figure out a way to get it completed with at like 2 grand or something like that. So Zach really knows
Hmm.
his numbers. And for those out there who are not as handy, find somebody like Zach in your market, because Zach and I talked this out. So I was able to figure out, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's doable. It didn't really cause this huge headache when I realized what we needed to do.
Yeah, I think what Chris is talking about is the sewer line replacement.
Yes.
That's just a good example of something like this because you can hire a plumber and it'll be 7 to 10 grand, 12 grand to replace the sewer line. But all that they're doing is renting an excavator, digging a ditch, and laying new pipe, connecting it from point A to point B. If you're handy enough to run, pipe and run an excavator, those sorts of things, you can do that. And what you're going to do is you're going to hire a plumber who's going to charge you $225 an hour to run an excavator, which is a whole lot of fun and is totally something you can DIY if you're kind of handy. And then he's going to run the pipe and all those sorts of things. I guess the two of the three sewer lines we've done, that's how we've had to fix it. Some of them have been, well, I think the one Chris is talking about, we might have even been able to hand dig for the repair.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's just so many things. Like a plumber's going to charge you $200 an hour, and he's going to have guys that work for him for $20 an hour or $25 an hour doing the work.
Hmm.
Why not try to find those guys who are $25 an hour and hire them for $25 an hour, have them do the work and skip the overhead? And in doing that, you're taking on a lot of risk. You're taking on the risk that the plumber was charging you more for. He's not ripping anybody off. He's just
Hmm.
accounting for all of his risk. So you take on the risk and you take on all those sorts of things. But if you're willing to do that, you can really save some money on labor.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway too is like you said, you're trying to create almost like a business in a sense, right? So,
Right.
you having
Yeah.
this equipment or tools or whatnot is not necessarily just for your rentals. It's because you're trying to create this business, and that's how you're also saving in overall costs, right? So, I did find Brandon's YouTube channel in my notes here. So there is his YouTube channel. So go please subscribe. Hopefully it doesn't pass me too soon because he's right behind me in subscriber count. But go check out his stuff. He's killing it out there. And he actually, for those you may not know, he is going to be one of the speakers at
Hmm.
the One Rental at a Time in Vegas. I believe he's speaking day one. But yeah, go check out his channel.
And Mark,
Yes.
he's out of Fort Worth, is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I
he
remember
always has the
watching his
nice
video.
flashy yellow shirts on.
Yeah.
And ever since he got so big, he doesn't come on my channel anymore. So hopefully he's still here listening. But yeah,
His model is really good.
yeah.
I know there's a couple investors here in Lynchburg who have built homes, and I think they've even built some dudes, and they're doing pretty well. I mean, the infill lots are difficult to find in some cities. I you'd have to forgive me. I haven't watched a video of his probably in 3 or 4 months. But I think he buys the land and then uses that to finance the building cost. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so like as I was touching earlier, he has his numbers dialed in, he said. So
Hmm.
basically it can be within $1,000 or so. But if you notice, and I think you touched on it, Chris, is that a lot of people are headed in that direction. So if you
Hmm.
guys haven't been watching, even like Coach Carson's been talking about it quite a bit on his channel, Casey Brick by Brick. So a lot of people are kind of focusing on that strategy. I believe even Henry Washington has had mentioned that
Hmm.
quite a bit on Bigger Pockets recently. But people are trying to make the numbers pencil out, and I think Zach, that's kind of what you want to touch on also. It's like how how to make deals, or how do you make it look like a deal that's going to make sense, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any thoughts or suggestions on that?
Yeah. When we were talking at our tech thing yesterday, the day before, you mentioned that Chris wanted to talk about strategy for finding deals. One thing on the back end of that that I think is important to talk about is that sometimes you're not finding deals, you're making deals. And in a sense,
Hmm.
every deal is made, right? Somebody negotiated a house to where it can be purchased at 50,000 so you can wholesale it for 58 and so that you can buy it and everybody can make money. But specifically, I guess speaking of deals that you can't get the price low enough to just do a really good cash deal where you buy it with hard or private money and then you refinance out of it or sell it. Um, how do you make a deal rather than find a deal that's a killer deal? Because the cash deals, they go like that. As soon as somebody has a house for 50K and it'll sell for 120 and it needs 20K in work, somebody buys it. Somebody buys it quick. And that's, I buy plenty of those deals that are cash deals. And at this point, people know me and will bring those to me. Um, but sometimes real estate is about making deals. And so one of the things that I think one of the deals we talked about in our conversation a week or two ago was this first creative finance property I purchased. The seller wanted
Mm.
90. Today, if I was looking at that, I would buy it for probably 70 or 75. But the seller wanted 90, and I was able to make it work for a few reasons. One of the reasons is because I did the labor all myself. So I put the time into it, and I was able to cut down on rehab costs by doing the work myself. But one of the other reasons is I got really creative with the house. It was a 2 bedroom, 1 bath house with a detached garage. So I cut the living room in half and I made the living room kind of smaller, but still plenty big enough. And I added a third bedroom. So now my rents went from probably 950 to 1300 by doing that. And then there's also a detached garage. So I rented that out separately for 150 bucks a month. So on a house that was previously getting 950 a month, the seller wanted 90. That's just not a deal because it needed work. I was able to get to a point where the house is making $1,500 a month, or I guess at the time it was 1450. Now it's 1530, but around $1,500 a month because I was creating a deal. And people talk about that all the time, adding bedrooms, those sorts of things. But it goes even beyond that. It's if there's a detached garage, try to find a contractor who will rent it for 150 a month, or those sorts of things to be able to create cash flow. Because if it wasn't for that 150 bucks a month extra, it wouldn't have been a deal, really. I mean, it would have just broken even. But that 150, that's my pure cash flow after all expenses. And that's what made the deal work. And eventually that contractor moved out, and that was my shop for, 6 or 9 months while I was waiting to buy the office building that I'm in right now. And that was extremely helpful. I had a shop that was completely paid for
Hmm.
by tenants. And so um, that's just one example. I could probably give you a bunch of examples where there's a deal that's brought to me. In fact, there's one I'm negotiating right now. Or actually, I guess we finished. I'm under contract on it right now, but I went and did the walkthroughs today. A seller brought me these properties that they wanted to sell, and they wanted kind of a steep price for them, but we negotiated a zero down, 2.5% interest owner finance note for all of these properties. So I'll be buying these using that. And so I'm not really buying something where the price is necessarily the purchase price is what's
Hmm.
really
Right.
good, but it's a 2.5% interest rate, and that'll pay down real fast over the next couple of years. And then it'll get to a point where the purchase price is really good, and I'll obviously have more cash flow because of the lower interest rate and all those sorts
Hmm.
of things. So I think that's really important to touch on is finding deals. And then sometimes making deals as well, not just saying no because the numbers are too tight,
Right.
but saying how can I make this deal work and what sort of offer can I give that will add value to everybody.
And Mark, I know that there's a question there for Zach, but I did want to add this is the exact reason why I wanted to introduce you to. These strategies that Zach is using are things that we have all heard about from other people. Well, some of us just need that extra push to act on it, and finding the deal with the financing aspect of it. Some people just need to see that somebody else can do it who is not somebody that we're used to seeing on YouTube.
Yeah, so Brandon has a few questions. He says yes, Fort Worth area. He says you guys are something. Yes, he loves his Hawaiian shirts, but
Well,
he says, Zach, are you using fixed rate long term financing? And I guess you can add on. He's asking, what is your LTV to your portfolio?
Yeah, good questions. LTV is around 70%. That's where I want to keep it. I really don't want to go above that. That can be, I guess, a little flexible, but I really don't want to be too far above that just because I want things to be conservative. Um, conservative enough, aggressive enough that I can grow, but conservative enough that I can keep what I'm growing. I guess it's kind of my philosophy. Um, am I using long-term fixed rate financing? Yes, sometimes, no, sometimes. I think when you get to the point where you're just focusing on building the business and moving all the chess pieces around, you just take what's the best option per deal. So there's plenty of deals where they're fixed rate long-term financing, and there's some deals where they're not. I've got a few arms because I'm assuming interest rates are going to go down, and I can refinance, but I don't have a ton of arm loans because I don't want my entire portfolio to be messed up in a couple of years if the interest rates just skyrocket unexpectedly. So I think it's always just a mix of everything, and even my financing is the same way. It's a mix. I have deals that only are financed with private money, and I've got a 20-year private money note that I write a guy a check to every month. I've got deals that are regular local bank loans, DSCR loans, sub to owner financing, just kind of all over the place because it's just what's the deal? Okay, what's the best financing that makes sense for it? How can we move the deal along? What's the best numbers? All those sorts of things are the questions I ask. And then one thing I do is I try to diversify the lenders I use. Dave Ramsey went under because he put all of his eggs in two baskets. He had two local banks, and the first one got sold. And he was young too. He was like my age with a similar amount of real estate. And the first bank got sold, and the new owner was like, I don't want to lend all this money to this young guy. And they called the notes, and the second bank caught on and called all the notes. And so, first of all, I think be careful with local bank loans because of the fact that many of them have clauses in there that allow them to call notes. But secondly, I don't want all my loans as one bank because if that bank goes under, I don't want to go under. And so that's another reason why I diversify between fixed rate and adjustable rate mortgages and private money and owner financing, sub two, and the different strategies.
Nice. Yeah, we got Harrison here tuning in. He's from Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah.
He said good morning. Yeah, so Brandon says, yeah, excellent, 70%. That is what I preach also. It gives options. Yeah, so Brandon, like he said, he's doing build to rent in Texas, but he also has a banking background. So he was in the banking system before he kind of dove into real estate. Yeah, what else? So Chris, so you mentioned you are kind of, I don't know if pivot is the right word, but you are going to be looking for maybe different types or quality of properties. Are you going to relocate from Virginia, or are you saying going to do it from a
I am.
distance?
At some point, I will be relocating from Virginia. So I have about 2 years left in my degree program. Um, we'll see if I'm here for that full 2 years. I don't know. But yeah, I think that we will relocate. I am now. I say all this. I actively look every day. I have my eye on a property right now that I'm still waiting. Because the other thing, I think we all kind of know this by now. I'm waiting for that secret 30-day mark. Once it hits 30 days, then I might be sending out an offer. So, and my offer will be significantly lower than what is listed. So I mean, I'm looking, but because if I'm going to be here for 2 years, I can be here for 2 more years, and I can purchase another property before I leave. So I mean, I'm not averse to continuing to grow while I'm here. Um, but it's funny you guys are talking about loan to value because I am a veteran, so I use the VA loan, so my LTV is very, very high. But it's
But
kind of
that's
funny.
manageable on a smaller
It is,
portfolio.
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what's funny is the place I have in Florida, the appreciation has grown so much that it really brings it down in terms of LTV as well because I bought the home with zero money down, but now it's worth double when I bought it. So it's kind of crazy that that works out that way. I think it goes to the time in the market, which we've heard before in the past as well. Again, which is why I'm also actively looking today, even if I know that I'm going to be leaving Lynchburg. Because if I have another property for 2 more years while here, it will appreciate. I mean, Logan, can't say his last name. The guy that Mike always talks
Motoshami.
about has that. That's right. He has that chart. How many times do prices go down in the last 40 years? What's it like 5 times in 40 years? I mean, I'll take that bet all day
That's
long.
right.
Hyder has a question. He says 30 days isn't much for days on market. Is that what fits your market?
For me, it's more of a starting point. Like I've driven by the house, I've looked at it, I haven't gone into it, but at that point, I think the people are going to start sweating, and then we'll
I
see.
think I
We
think
will
Chris is
see.
right about our market, that being kind of the sweet spot. I would say at least 30 days or at least 4 weeks or something like that. I
Yeah.
closed on one yesterday that was listed for 100, dropped to no, listed for 110, dropped to 100, and I sent out an offer for 70 and we got it for 75. And it's fully renovated, brand new HVAC, brand new roof, but
Mhm.
has some flooring problems upstairs that I'll be able to fix and I'm not super concerned about. Um, but people didn't want it and people were scared to buy it because of that, and
Right.
so the 100,000 didn't work. So I offered 70 and got it for 75, and it was just sitting for quite a while, and nobody wanted it. I think it was just over 30 days, and then while we were on this call, I just got a text from an agent like 10 minutes ago about another one that's 30 days on market that the seller just signed the contract. So we're officially under contract. I need to sign one last thing on an owner finance
Mhm.
deal that I actually found on the market. Um, that was just sitting for a while because people didn't want it at the purchase
Mhm.
price. So I think there's
Yeah.
opportunity there, at least where we are.
Yeah. And I think 30 days for what I guess what how I should have explained that is my starting point. I will
Yeah.
start tracking it at that point and saying, okay, is there movement? Because what you can do, like I don't have MLS access. I'm not an agent, but I can track how many views it gets on Zillow. And generally at 30 days or somewhere in between there, the price will drop. And then if their view count increases, you know that the demand is there. But if the view count is not increasing after the price drop, then I'm going to wait a little while and I'm going to make an offer. I'm going to find a younger agent to make the offer for me, but
Yep, that's right.
I just want to say good morning to Bill, all fired up. So we do have some winners here too tuning in. I did a giveaway on Monday for some tickets for the ORAD event. Dion's book, Frank Shirts, All Nighter Hider was the winner of the VIP ticket. But Harrison is here. He won a book from Dion. All fired up won a shirt from
oh,
Frank, the ORAT shirt. But Brandon says, yes, where did it go? Where did it, he says, I choose to offer before the 30 days and then educate them on the market and told them I am here, ready to close at this price. Also shared the days on market
mhm.
are the enemy of the final sales price. And then he also says, I shared I can always find another deal. The next day, they accepted my offer at 30% off the lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great strategy.
Mhm.
He says, you have to demonstrate to them you will walk away. Psychology. People fear loss more than they fear gain.
Right.
Yeah. And Flavio is, I don't know, playing with his flip phone and sending jewels. And I don't know what he's doing with his phone, but I'm getting all kinds of stuff in the chat from Flavio. Um,
We need bulletproof vests from
yeah.
Flavio here.
So, oh, Harrison did have a question for you guys. He said, would you say that Virginia has had too much artificial appreciation, especially with the Northern Virginia government layoffs?
Um, I don't I don't know, because that's significant. I mean, that's multiple hours away from where we are. Um, so I don't think I've seen that here. I actually did see that the prices, I think they just started ticking down in Lynchburg itself.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was like 1% according to Redfin when I looked at it the other day. Um, that's an interesting thought because the if they are laying people, well, I guess here, because if they're laying people off, that means the supply will increase, but there also has to be steady demand for that supply increase to lower the prices. And I if they're laying people off in DC and in Northern Virginia, are people still is the job market there still as strong as it was before? If they're laying people off and they're not rehiring, then that means the demand is not there either. So I don't necessarily know if it's artificial. It's very that the artificial aspect is very difficult from an economic perspective because we used it in the Great Recession, um, and the rules were given to the people who were purchasing homes at that point. The rules have changed, and I think that we've adjusted for those over inflations. The market is what the market is today. If the people are losing their jobs, then people are not getting hired there either. So the demand will not be, it will not equalize for that supply. So if the demand falls too, then we will see prices fall. But is that artificial?
I think that's
Sorry, it's
I think
very
that's a good point
theoretical.
that
Yeah.
it's not really artificial, it's just economic changes.
Yeah.
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 But
That's making me think
we're
though.
3.5 hours away from DC.
Yeah.
So there's, I think, zero people probably that commute to DC from here. I've never met anybody, and I know quite a few people in our market. But I do know Charlottesville is like an hour and a quarter north of us. There are people that commute from Charlottesville to DC, so maybe their market will experience a little bit. But Charlottesville also is very strong on its own. So I would
Mhm.
assume if we start to see kind of a dip in prices, it'll be really the true Northern Virginia counties and Maryland and DC itself.
Right.
But I don't know. We'll see.
Zach, I know. So that you found quite a bit of deals this year, and it sounds like you just kind of touched on it. Like you know quite a bit of people in your market. Do you think at this point you are outworking people to find deals, or kind of because of your name already and what you've done, deals are being brought to you?
Probably both, I guess. But I think um, like it's not that you create a brand and people a name get your name out there and people come to you with deals as much as like the way you create your name is by outworking and I wouldn't even say necessarily like I mean it
Mhm.
probably is outworking, but it's also just like I just say yes to every opportunity that I can really make work and isn't a financially bad decision. As long as it's a good deal, I'm gonna buy it. Unless there's slight exceptions. I don't do any new construction. I don't do full guts, and I've done a couple, but I don't do like huge gut
Yeah.
jobs. Um, and so that's probably the biggest thing is is I will say yes if it's a good deal, and then you kind of get known and people are willing to bring you stuff pretty frequently. And I've started looking on market too, which I've never done since like the
Mhm.
first house I bought. I bought the first house I got on the market. Then I've been doing all off market for the last 2 years. Because I really like I for anyone who listened to like previously, I spent the first year kind of I bought one house and kind of waited a year and then really started ramping up the business about 2 years ago, a little under year and a half to 2 years ago. Um, and so, but for most of that time, I've been buying deals off market. But I've started to buy on market. I bought a 12-unit mobile home park on the market that they were asking 330. I got it for 260. I just bought this house yesterday on the market, and then another one like this one that I just got under contract on. A lady texted me like 10 minutes ago. That is a on market deal in a really nice neighborhood in our area that I'm under contract for. $0 down, 3.5% interest, 30 years, 8.5 year balloon, which is pretty good numbers, consider all things considered. And that was one that was someone showed me that was an on market deal, and I went for it.
Mhm.
So I think there's in our market is starting to slow down, so there's a little more opportunity, but not everywhere's like that. Some markets are still strong, but that's probably part of why I'm shifting to doing a little more on market. Is just because our market is seeming to slow down a little bit, so there's some opportunity to get some
Right.
deals.
Yep.
Hyder says, I just realized that 2 VIP tickets I've received with no expense to me this year. George Gammon gifted him a Rebel Capitalist VIP, and then Hyder, you're gonna make trouble. He says he believes I rigged the giveaway on Monday, and he won the ticket for Vegas. But yeah,
You are a Bears fan, so
Brandon says I'm drinking from my Bucky's Texas brand. No, this is the South Carolina one I went to. But hey, I did see Bucky's did open in Virginia recently, right? Where is that
Yep.
yeah,
close to you guys? I saw there's like a huge
like
line,
an
right?
hour
There
and
was
a
like a
half,
huge line for it.
something like that.
Yeah, it's not too far away. I haven't been yet, but hopefully soon.
Have
I
you guys
haven't been
been to
either.
Bucky's though?
No, I
Please, I
haven't.
lived in
What?
Frisco. We
Oh
had
my!
one
How did
in
me from Hawaii?
we had one in McKinney, right up the road, or Melissa, maybe, I don't know. On the way to Oklahoma, we would
Oh
go there a
man.
lot. I have a funny Bucky story actually. So when we had the cookie shop, we employed high school kids, and one of the girls that worked for us, she's like, "Have you ever had beaver nuggets?" I'm like, "What?" She goes, "There's these things that you get at Buc-ee's," and I go, "All right, so I'll try them." So we went to Austin to do the barbecue trail in Lockhart, Texas. And on the way back, we stopped at Buc-ee's and I had these beaver nuggets. And I'm driving. We rented a car to drive down there. And I'm driving, and Rachel's falling asleep next to me. And I got the beaver nuggets and I'm eating them out of the bag. And they get to the end of the bag. So I'm tipping the bag up in my mouth, right? I get pulled over. Cop comes up. He goes, I saw you swerving. You okay? I said, "Yeah." I said, "I was eating these beer nuggets and I must have accidentally went over the lane." And he kind of checked the registration. He goes, "This is a rented car?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, just get home." But Rachel will never let me live that down because she's like, whenever we go there, she's like, "Don't swerve when you're eating the beaver
Well,
nugget."
the beaver nuggets are good, but I like they have like different flavors and stuff now. So the original one
Mhm.
is a little too sweet, but
These were like
yeah,
cinnamon or something like that.
yeah.
They're good.
But
So, yeah.
I was gonna jab at you for looking skinnier, but we were talking about before Chris came on because I've told him that he sits too close to his camera every time, so his head never fits in the editing for when I try to make the reels. So he's kind of sitting further back, so he does look a little more slim today. So, but then you said you scarfed on a whole beaver nuggets bag, so I'm not sure.
That was 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Well, let's all right. Let's get back to real estate or what we're working on or whatnot. So Zach, you said a deal just came across your table then, or is it so?
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
that? 20
Just
units, I
found
think you
out that
said.
we're 20. No, I'm under contract on about
Oh,
20 units. But that's across 6 different properties. So it's some of those are multifamily, a couple of those are single family.
oh shoot. Harrison says, Zach, what is the average wait time to bring renters into your units?
I would say probably 3 weeks, but that's average. Some of them are a week, some of them are a little bit longer than that, but probably on average about 3 weeks.
Um, good Lord, Flavio. He's like, Zach, where is this? Flavio,
Pay
yeah.
attention. I'm just kidding.
See, exactly. See, how do you
Detroit.
know about Flavio already, Zach?
I don't know. I just got the vibe. I don't know. I'm just kidding, Flavio. You're probably a great human being. So Central Virginia is where Chris and I invest.
See, Flavio,
You
your
know,
name is getting out there, man. It's good. Yeah.
is Flavio going to be there in
Yes, he
February?
is. He's probably looking for a ride
Is
still
he?
yet, though.
Okay.
He's trying to catch a ride from someone down from Grandview, Washington.
Are you
And
going,
he,
Chris?
I am.
Okay,
We just bought our
very
tickets.
nice.
Rachel and I
yes, and I told
will be
Zach to
there.
buy his
Yeah.
tickets, and I don't know if he did yet, but
I haven't yet. No, I don't. I haven't looked into it at all since we talked. So there's my confession.
Mark, who are the speakers going to be? Because I know there's a few
well,
that I
Zach
want
knows
to
the two. I
watch.
told him the headliners. So Pace Morby will
Okay.
be there, and Jason Hartman will be there. As I mentioned, Brandon, Built to Rent Texas, is one of the speakers. REI Jared, who's in the school community, will be speaking. He does Rent by the Room in Arizona.
Hmm.
Aaron Amin will be speaking with his wife.
Aaron,
Aaron
yeah.
is just raised, I believe, 2.8 million for a
3 million.
residential assisted living
Mhm.
facility they're working on.
Oh,
Who else is there's Leah, the trader. She's on X. She's someone she's invested in Europe, I guess, and then now kind of rehab stuff in out of the country, right? So there's Sean and Sharon, I believe is her name. But they have like 1 million followers on Instagram, I believe. But they're the
hmm.
couple that stepped away for like 2 3 years. They kind of just stepped away from Instagram or social media and they just traveled. They had their
Hmm.
passive income or their rental portfolios basically paying for their life. And they just, they were at the Olympics, I believe. They were in like Russia, Japan. They're all over the place. Who else is speaking? Lakeisha and Ryan Ruff are speaking.
Oh,
Derek, the ADU guy, is tentative. I think he's 50 or he's 50
oh, very
50.
good.
They don't
Yeah.
know if he can change his schedule.
I actually remember watching him, and I actually think I came back and talked to Zach about it. And I was talking, and Zach, you may have even forgot about this, but he was looking for single family homes that were 4 to 5 bedrooms, 2 to 3 bathrooms. And he was like, you just go down and talk to the zoning board and say, you guys have a housing problem. I'm going to fix it. We're going to cut this into a duplex and we're going to have 2 units there. And I was like, that is such a fascinating idea. Now that was what, 2 years ago, because I didn't go last year and Mark never lets me live it down. So I don't know if you remember that,
I don't
Zach,
know
but
that. I
Hartman
don't think I do.
Hartman is an interesting one because his idea of the inflation aspect, that is something that I teach my students at the last day of our classes. And it's because of what Cody had mentioned. And I was like, that's an excellent idea. So I started instituting it as soon as I saw that. And I'm like, I got to teach my students how to do this. But sorry, Zach, go
No,
ahead.
you're good. Yeah. Yeah, I've done that once. I'm in the middle of a house to duplex conversion. In our market,
Mhm,
I probably won't do it again just because you got to deal with all the fire rating and all the permitting and all that sort of stuff.
mhm.
But it's a neat idea, and if the cities will back off on the regulation, it could be a real solution. Now,
Uh,
will the cities back off on regulation? No. But
Flavio is trying to defend himself real quickly. I guess he's asking. I think he's assuming mobile home he's referring to. Where is the mobile home park? I guess.
um, I have a few mobile home parks. Most of them are outside of Lynchburg. I've got one in Lynchburg. So somebody else also asked, would you buy in Richmond or Blacksburg? Yeah, I would. It would just have to be multifamily. I probably wouldn't buy a single family home out there unless it was a unique deal or I knew somebody out there or something. But I do buy outside of Lynchburg. That's why I say Central Virginia.
Mhm.
I have some stuff in the counties that surround Lynchburg. I've got something I'm under contract on. It's close to an hour away. So
Oh, Hyder says Simon, the uneducated economist, will be attending this year's event.
Oh
So he's
yeah.
not, I don't think he's speaking this year, but he will be attending, looks like. So there's Simon's channel, but I mean, I think most of us are probably subscribed, but he's what, I think 150,000 subscribers to his channel.
wow.
Flavio, no, I'm not sharing a room with you, Flavio. I told you that multiple times already. But yeah, so I think Zach, hopefully you can make it. I mean, hopefully Chris can persuade you that it's a great event to be around. Like I said, yeah, I did give him a lot of shit for not showing up for year two, even though after he said over and over that he would be there and he did not show up. But it's a good place. It's as you can see, the community is pretty supportive and everyone kind of has their own little niche they're kind of working on. But it's a great community to be around. So I guess Zach, I mean, what I know Chris kind of mentioned, are you trying to grow on the social media side? Is that kind of part of your vision or get your name out there?
I want to do more podcasts and interviews and conversations like this. I just find it, real neat to get to connect with investors all over. I had a call last week with a guy who's my age doing pretty much what I'm doing in Oklahoma. And it was really nice to catch up with him. And get to know each other a little bit. So that's kind of the sort of thing I really would like to do is just get to know other investors all across the country who are doing similar things and especially the ones that are really building businesses.
Mhm,
Really get to know those guys because and link arms a little bit and talk strategies, how to handle certain problems. Like that's been I built my entire business by getting to know people,
right.
like Chris, for example, who are investors in my town that do what I was looking to do. And it's kind of gotten to a different level where I'm building kind of a bigger business. And so really want to be cool to connect with other people who are also doing that. And then beyond that, also add value, provide, some opportunities maybe to people who are looking to do similar things and I learned so much from listening to Bigger Pockets and places like that, and so to be able to add value in that way on podcasts like yours and other places is something I'm pretty interested in terms of like YouTube or Instagram. I'm not I don't really use my Instagram for real estate, and I don't really plan to. So that's a great way for someone to reach out to me if you want to connect, but I don't really plan to try to grow a social media
Mhm.
following. It's just just not the direction that I'm heading right now.
No, cool. Yeah, I think like I said, Brandon would be a good guy to connect with. There's
Mhm.
also Brandon, who's in Arizona. He does ground up builds, I believe. What's his
Yeah.
build before?
And where is he out in Arizona? What
I can't
city? Do you
remember.
know?
But he just posted something this morning. I saw. It looks like he's working on a build right now.
Okay.
But let's see. Harrison's also asking Zach, with your experience in mobile home parks, would you build one from ground up?
Um, I don't know. I'm probably not the best person to ask that to, but I know that there's a fellow that was on Brandon Turner's podcast. He's 24 and he has like 800 something doors, which is just wild. And he was on there
Mhm.
like a couple months ago, and he has stopped buying apartment buildings and is now buying just mobile home parks. And he tried to do
Interesting.
development, and I'm pretty sure I'm remembering the story right. He just didn't. It was just too much, and it wasn't a good idea. So
Mhm.
I haven't tried to develop one. I don't have a great answer. If an opportunity came, I
Mhm.
might look into it, but I'm much more interested in buying and rehabbing than I am building. But if it's something you're interested in, I would research it and see. I know there's a lot of zoning restrictions that make it harder to do now than it used to be.
Right.
Like I said, there's Chris's X profile, Invest LYH. I believe you started another one on X, right? Or Instagram.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot more within economics. So I'm doing econ web as well. I think it's on my little
Oh,
screen
I
here.
only like
Yeah.
your cat. I only like
And I
your
have a
cat
Substack
one. Your cat
there.
one. Your Baticus or whatever. That's the only. Yeah,
Oh,
that's the only one I
Batcat?
follow.
Yeah, Batcat US. That's my cat. So we saved the cat when we moved away from Florida 2 weeks before we moved to Texas. And he's been living with us for 6 years now. So and we eventually what we wanted to do is create a storybook with him because he would come to the house and we would give him and all of his brothers food, but he would be the only one that would let us pet him because all the rest of them were kind of feral. But and we what we wanted to do is create a story that says that he kind of stepped out and allowed us to pet him, so he was able to feed his whole family. And then we were going to create a nonprofit where people could buy these little books, and then all the money that we earned on that we would just give to local shelters so they could feed cats. We j- I just don't have the time to do it. So
Yeah, that's my
Batcat
favorite
US
social media page of yours. But
with the cats. Yeah.
and there's Zach's Instagram profile. So if you, like I said, if you want to connect with him,
Yep.
know more about him, reach out to him. But Zach, what would you say? Like I said, I think like at your age, you're doing a lot of cool stuff out there. Like, and we talk about it quite a bit. You see it on social media everywhere. It just seems like so much people has given up hope or given up home ownership. Just feel like
Hmm.
everything's against them. Like, what advice would you give them, or what are some maybe even tips to get started?
Yeah. First piece of advice, and people are not going to like this, but I would just say work harder. It's probably the biggest piece of advice. I think
Mhm.
if you complain that you'll never be able to buy a house, you'll never be able to buy a house because you'll never try.
Right.
Um, I think almost anybody can buy a house. Obviously, there's exceptions, but I think almost anybody can buy a house. Now the question is, where are you trying to buy a house? Are you 25 years old and you're trying to live in the middle of some big city where a single family home is $900,000? That's just a bad idea. You're not, if you need to live in that city, then you won't be able to buy a house, but you've got to, it's a trade-off. And so
Mhm.
I think anybody can. It just is a matter of how much work you put in and making sure you live in a market that is reasonable enough. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think that would be my biggest piece of advice is just make it your goal to do that. Put your head down. Um, put yourself to work making it happen. And the other thing is you see all these videos, and it's true that housing is less affordable than it was 50 years ago. But you see all those videos of people saying the median income in America is,
Mhm.
among millennials or among Gen Z is this much. The median home price is this much. See, Gen Zers can't buy homes anymore. Millennials can't buy homes. The reality is nobody starts out at the median home price.
Right.
At least you
Right.
shouldn't. Like there used to be a thing called entry level homes in the 1950s. We made 900 square foot houses where you had a kitchen, a bathroom, two bedrooms, and a basement, and people had a lot more kids than they have now, and we raised families in those houses, and we have all not only experienced financial inflation but quality of living inflation, where someone who's 5 years old or 20 years old thinks that their first house needs to be an entry level home with 2,500 square feet and
Mhm.
5 bedrooms. That's just not the case. So I think settling our expectations a little bit, moving to somewhere that's more affordable. It doesn't have to be a super cheap market, but moving somewhere more affordable and then working really hard. There should be no reason why someone with a salary of
Mhm.
$40,000 a year, $50,000 a year can't figure out a way to purchase a home, in my opinion. And I've done it a few times,
Mhm.
so that's my advice.
And I'll just add some economic context to that. 2009 up to about 2014, the entry level home was essentially the median level home. It's not the case anymore. We do not have that supply like we had in that time. So we have to adjust our expectations exactly as Zach said.
Hyder saying creating a nonprofit is not that easy. Ask me how I know.
I
Yeah.
know.
So we do have
I don't know.
different.
I've run a business. I feel like having a nonprofit business is pretty easy. I'm just kidding.
There you go, Hyder. Just do. He's just saying you're not doing the work. Nah.
The problem
Just
is
run a
the problem
for-profit.
is you're not you're
No
not
problem.
buying bad enough deals. Buy some bad deals and you'll be running a nonprofit real fast.
But Brandon Built to Rent says, do you evaluate them by cash on cash return or dollar per door? What is your metrics for your purchases?
That's a great question. I try to do whatever I can to have $0 in every deal out of my own pocket. And the reason for that is because I want to scale efficiently. And unless you start with $1 million or a couple $1 million, you can't be putting 20% down all over the place. So I say that sort of tongue in cheek. I probably put money into more deals than not. But if I do, it might be, some of them it's really $1,000 or something like that. So I didn't really care about cash on cash return because, for example, the closing I had yesterday, I signed, and today they'll be wiring 12 grand into my bank account. So I closed on a house and I'm getting paid now to do the rehab. I was completely zero money out of pocket. So cash on cash return is a completely useless metric if you're trying to structure deals that you don't have money in. So I look at the return on equity, and the dollars per door are kind of the biggest things for me, because my goal is to have low money into deals because I want to scale efficiently, but also have equity in those deals. So I'm not saying just leverage to the hilt. Some occasionally you can if you have enough conservative other stuff, like this one that I'm owner financing. But I try to have equity in almost everything. And so I want to make sure that return on equity is good. If I have 100 grand in equity and I'm making $100 on that house, that's not a great return. I might want to sell that house and use that money to buy um, some some other deals and get a few $100s. And then for multifamily, that's where I'm saving my cash for, and that's why I say kind of when it comes to a single family
Mhm.
home, I usually don't want to have money invested, so cash return doesn't work because I'm saving my cash so that when I find a multifamily deal, that's where I'm putting my actual cash into.
Mhm.
Well, there may be people that actually are following here that I don't know, and I want to just clarify that we do not give financial advice here, or it's just our opinions. But Hyder says that's so funny. Buy some bad deals to start a nonprofit real quick. Yes, do your own due diligence and research out there. We're just having some fun and voicing our opinions. But I kind of just
Thank you for
we can
saying
wrap.
that. Thank you for saying that. I don't want any lawsuits
No,
after all
yeah.
this.
uh,
Don't
I
buy any
do.
zero down deals. Buy everything in cash. Buy one house every 10 years. Pay off your debt.
100%.
Dave Ramsey.
I do. We can wrap things up soon, but I just want to kind of, remind everyone why we're doing this, and always keep in mind what the end goal is, and sometimes you got to
Mhm.
realize, when you've won the game, you got to step away. So just, for example, I got news. One of the guys at the firehouse the other day, not my station, but in the department, they were loading hose, I believe. He was on the top of the engine. I guess he must have apparently hit his head on the the gears of the garage bay door, and he tripped and he fell backwards. He fell off the truck. He apparently must have hit his head, neck on the locker doors. Then he apparently
Mm,
hit the truck again. Looks like he's fractured his neck. Sounds like he's not any feeling below his nipples, whatnot. He rushed into surgery. And this is a guy at the
mhm,
end of his career. I mean, he could have probably retired. I believe he has his 25 years. This guy probably worked every day though. He was doing overtime every day to pound his high three for retirement. And this unfortunate incident happened, right? And you can look at it both ways. I mean, good thing he did all that overtime to maybe have a better pension, whatnot. But at the same time, it's kind of all that extra time he put in working, right? When maybe he could have stepped away. So I don't you don't want to judge anyone, but I just want to remind everyone kind of why we're doing this, and hopefully you have a vision of what the end game is, and when you've won, and
mhm,
you can step away hopefully. But let's kind of try to end on a better note than that. But I just wanted to remind everyone kind of what we're doing this for, right?
mhm,
But hey, Jen's here. Jen also mentioned to me that the Backstreet Boys will be performing in Vegas during Valentine's Day weekend when the event is going on. So she is trying to round up people that want to buy tickets and attend the Backstreet Boys concert. Hey, Kenny's here. They must all be tuning in from the out of state investing call that was going on in the school
mm.
community. Let's see. Harrison says, Zach, what do you think you say best helps the seller work on off market deals with you?
Um, I think that I think one of the biggest pitches is just to show that you don't have to work with a realtor. You don't have to show your house 100 times. You don't have to have people walking
Mhm,
through your house. You don't have to um, clean it up. It's very simple. You get to save on a commission, all those sorts of things. I think that's the biggest value add that a off market investor has. Another thing too is I often have bought properties from other investors. I think that's a wonderful strategy, and I think people who say that
mhm,
you can't find deals from investors are sleeping on a lot of good deals, because you get to a point where the only thing you get to a point where you're working with other investors. If you want to get into multifamily and you think you can't buy from other investors, you won't get into multifamily, because multifamily is investors.
right.
And so,
That's right.
and that goes back to structuring deals and creating deals. But if you're willing to buy from other investors, it's way easier to do off market too, because investors want to do off market. They
Mhm,
don't want to list it. They don't want to deal with an agent and pay commissions and all those sorts of things.
All right, man. Like I said, I think there are a lot of the questions that people had for you, Zach, after your interview came out. I think you answered them pretty
mhm,
well. I'm glad Chris introduced us. Like I said,
Yeah, me
hopefully
too.
you'll be willing to come on and share
mhm.
your experience, more often. Chris, though, any final words? Anything else you want to talk about? You'll be in Vegas, you said, right? What speaker are
I
you
will be
looking
in
to see,
Vegas.
Chris, this year?
Hartman, because of the impact that he's had on my teaching. And I think that, yeah, I just think people do not understand sometimes the power of um, borrowing money, because you're borrowing it at a certain value and you're paying it at a significantly lower value back. And a lot of people in, like Zach mentioned, Dave Ramsey, a lot of people from that camp just assume, oh, this house is going to cost you double. Well, what are they going to purchase with that doubled money? They're going to purchase less goods than when they gave it to you 30 years ago. And I think that message, it falls flat for a lot of people, and it just needs to be explained in a better way to say, look, the reason why you need to borrow the money is because you don't have the money, but the asset that you're buying will outlast that money that you're paying back. So that, I think that's just a huge message. Plus, I want to see you. I want to see All Night at Hard Air. I want to see Dion, Flavio. I guess if he's staying in your room, I'll probably see him. Um, I just kind of want to see everybody that I know from YouTube in person. The Denny's meetups, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to
What?
make it. That is way past my
Come
bedtime, but
on.
maybe I'll go home and take a nap and then
Oh,
head
you'll
over.
be. That's what. Come on, it'll be
Like, come on,
fine.
midnight Zach. I
Well,
can't do
that's
that.
that's that's why it's before the event starts. So like no, because so Friday there's no Denny's event, right? So the event is Saturday, Sunday. So that's why it's Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday is kind of that day you're supposed to just relax or whatever, and get ready for the event. But yes, Jen says she's looking to see Jason Hartman
Mhm.
also. Harrison's asking, yes, when tell us when the economy will get better, and yeah,
We will know. I will say that. We will know because it's gonna take off like a
and
racehorse.
yes, Flau.
You guys gotta understand, they're redoing the capital structure within many of the companies because now they're incentivized to do so. Once that happens, things are gonna become more efficient, which means prices will drop, which means people will have more money to spend because they're also gonna be getting increases in salary. We will know. Trust me, we will know.
Chris, is your wife a Backstreet Boy fan or anything? Jen's trying to put together.
Possibly, she sent me to or she brought dragged me to New Kids on the Block years ago. I don't know if she'd go to, uh, Backstreet Boys. I'd have to
Well, it
ask
looks
her.
like Jen's gonna be trying to putting something together for the Backstreet Boys concert. But yes, Flavio is a good sport hider, so Flavio is definitely a good
Very good.
good sport, a big part of the community. But yeah, he'll probably be riding in on a donkey. He said to Vegas. He's trying to figure out how to get there. But like I said, everyone, hopefully you did kind of hear my unfortunate story about one of the firefighters in the department. So like I said,
Yeah.
definitely, just a reminder. Anything can happen in an
Mhm.
instant. Remember when you've won the game. Hopefully you can walk away, enjoy yourself, enjoy life. I think that's what we're all doing this for. Like I said, this was a
Mhm.
fun one. We'll get together again. Like I said, everyone, I'll be back Sunday morning with Nick, who is kind of the new Bitcoin guy in the One Rental at a Time community. He's
Mm,
been on
right.
Zuber's channel also recently, and Harrison, who's in Virginia, will also be on Sunday with me live streaming. So we'll be talking about kind of Nick wants to talk about how investors should be leveraging real estate and Bitcoin together. That's the one of the better combinations he thinks, and that's what he's done. So everyone have a great weekend, and I'll hopefully see you folks on Sunday.